Baylor versus Utah preview. And Chris, I'll kind of go first here a little bit. So, Chris, Baylor's coming off a 42-31 loss to Texas State. And also, to make matters worse, they lost starting quarterback Blake Shapen for the next few weeks, at least. They're going to have to turn it over to Mississippi State transfer Sawyer Robinson, who had 113 yards and 2 turnovers in relief duty. And the Bears on defense gave up 450 yards and allowed Texas State to dominate them to the tune of 28-14 at halftime. So that's got to kind of be pretty tough if you're the Baylor man there.
Yeah.
Chris, I don't think it really matters, and you'll kind of touch on this here in a bit, who Utah trots out there at quarterback to play him. I don't think Baylor's probably going to be able to stop him. I'll say this to summarize this for Baylor. It surprises me that a Dave Aranda-led team, by the way, speaking of Dave Aranda, he was largely considered to be one of the best coaches in college, one of the hottest up-and-coming coaches in college football a few years back. It surprises me that the last couple years, last year they went 6-7, and they started this year off with a big-time upset loss. It's just surprising how quick a couple-year difference can make.
No, you're absolutely right. If you're the Baylor man right now, you're in a critical state. That was a tough loss to Texas State, which they were never even in that game. Texas State held the lead from the beginning and pretty much kicked the shit out of them the entire game. But yeah, here we are, Utah. You talked about it, Christian. You touched base about Cam Rising. Again, it's up in the air. It sounds like it's a game time decision. I was looking into that this morning, and they're going to play that same game with him. I know he's practicing, but if you're really Utah right now, after what you saw against Florida last week, I don't know. Do you really need to play him against Baylor? I don't think so. So, yeah, and if they do, if Cam Rising doesn't go, guys, they're going to play Bryson Barnes. He was 12 of 28 for 159 yards and a touchdown last week. Looked pretty damn good. And they brought in Nate Johnson. That kid can run the ball out of the QB position. He was only, I think, 3 for 4 throwing the ball for like maybe 10 yards, but he had 6 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. He's kind of a change of pace quarterback. He's an athlete back there. It seemed to work really well for Utah in that game. Utah pretty much handled Florida for the most of that game. Sorry, Florida man there, but it really was. I think Utah going forward here in this game, though, they're going on the road here, which, okay, but Utah's a physical team. They've won the Pac-12 the last 2 years. People seem to forget about that. I think people wrote them off this year. Keep it simple if you're Utah. Run the ball, rely on that defense. Baylor's going to want to probably throw the ball. I don't think Baylor's going to have a lot of success in this game, Christian, running the ball against Utah. Florida sure as shit didn't with 13 yards in that game, which is just amazing to me. Florida had that many yards rushing, especially after last year's, production on the offensive side of the ball for Florida. But saying that, Christian, what's your prediction here? Or if you have anything to add here, man, I really, truly think you're probably on the same page as me here as far as Utah.
Yeah, I think, we've got people jumping in the chat here. I think they're exactly right. I think Utah is going to win this one big. My prediction on this one, I've got Utah 35, Baylor 14. What about you, Chris?
I'm really close with you. Like I said, we don't consult before the show starts about predictions or much of anything, to be honest with you. Christian really and I don't get along after the show, even if we get along half the time on the show. No, I got Utah 27, Baylor 14. I don't see a world, and it really doesn't have anything to do with Baylor even. It does have something to do with Baylor losing last week, Christian, but Utah just impressed the shit out of me with their backup quarterbacks, both of them, against a Florida team that we were told was much more improved this year. So I just think Utah's the better team. They're the more physical team. We know how these Big 12 defenses play.